Hi, I'm David Raab, founder and CEO of the Customer Data Platform Institute. And today we're going to talk about, do I need a CDP for account-based engagement? Now, I'm not much to look at, so we're just going to do slides today. You're here because you know something about CDP. So you either have two questions. You say, man, do I need a CDP? Or you're convinced, man, do I need a CDP? So either way, let's get into it and answer both of those questions. We'll start with those of you who aren't quite certain yet. You need a CDP if your sales and marketing departments argue over whose data is better, or if it's hard to add third-party data to your CRM system and your marketing system, or if your analysts are spending hours assembling data for models and lists, or maybe you can't identify the best accounts using unified information because you don't have unified information, or maybe people are receiving different messages and different channels from you, or maybe your call center agents can't see interactions across all channels, or maybe you can't attribute revenue to your marketing programs. If you have any of those problems, you need a customer data platform. And the reason you need a customer data platform is because all those problems come down to lacking a complete, accurate, trusted, shareable view of every account and its contents. And that is exactly what you get from a CDP. So, okay, so you say, yeah, I have at least one of those problems. Yeah, problems. So I really do need a CDP. Well, that's great. But now you think about it for a second longer and you say, but how does the CDP solve those problems? Good question. Very fair question. We're selling solutions here, right? But how does it actually work? We all know better than that. Well, we have to answer, what's a CDP? CDP is packaged software that creates a persistent, unified customer database that's accessible to other systems. Okay, so if you want to look at more of a picture, if you're more of a visual thinker, the CDP sits in the middle between all of your data sources, all your operational systems like your CRM and your web and your order processing and even external data sources. And it takes that data in and it loads it and it cleans it and transforms it and links it up and it aggregates it and exposes it and segments it. So it does all kinds of good things. And then it shares it back out with your delivery systems, again, things like your CRM and your web. So the CDP kind of sits in the middle of it. We call that a spider diagram because it kind of has legs on both sides, if you have a strong imagination. Now, reality, of course, isn't quite so simple because there are other things that happen between the time you get that data loaded into the CDP and the time that you actually use it in your delivery systems. You're going to do some analytics. You're probably going to do a lot of analytics, exploring it and classifying it and building predictive models and so on. And then you're going to do campaigns or message selection where you're going to pick some content. You're going to do some personalization. You might do outbound campaigns like email and advertising. You might do real-time interactive campaigns like web or on your call center. And you might arbitrate across different campaigns. You might orchestrate across different channels. There's a lot of activity that happens before you actually decide what message to do. Now, the key point here is that different systems do different of those things. The CDP, which is packaged, persistent, unified, accessible, it does those things. Those are the core things in that diagram we just saw. Decisioning, which is the analytics and the campaign, sometimes delivery, sometimes. But the core thing that the CDP does is that package, persistent, unified, accessible data, okay? Now, other systems also work with customer data, but they don't do exactly what a CDP does. You might have a data lake or a data warehouse. Most companies, big companies today have those things, but they're not packaged software, they're custom built, which means they take longer and they cost a lot of money to run. They're usually pretty inflexible. You might have a data hub like a MuleSoft or something, or a tag management system that is a packaged software. And it pulls in data, but then it just turns around, pushes it out someplace else. It doesn't really store the data, so it's not persistent. And of course, since it doesn't store it, it can't really unify it. You almost surely have a CRM system or marketing automation system, maybe one of the big marketing clouds that does all kinds of things. Those are packaged and they do store data, but they don't store all the data. They really mostly store the data that they generate internally. And since they don't have all the data available, they can't create a unified profile. On the other hand, as I say, they do decisioning and they do delivery. So we're not saying that the CDP is the magical thing that does everything. We're saying the CDP does what the CDP does. Similarly, DMP is packaged software, but really just a very narrow specialization around cookie management for advertising. So certainly not persistent over any long period of time. You might keep cookies for, 30, 60, 90 days, but not a long-term storage. And a cookie doesn't really unify the data. Email, content management system, all those operational delivery systems, those, again, they're packaged software, but they're not really working with all of your data, whereas they are very good at doing decisioning and doing delivery. So the whole point of this is that every system is optimized for its purpose. Warehouses and lakes and tag managers and DMPs and CRMs, they're all optimized for what they do, which means you use a different design, which means they're not really good at other things. So the CDP is optimized for that complete accessible customer data. It's the only system that's optimized for that particular task. So you need a CDP if you are missing complete accessible customer data. If there are things you want to do, gaps you need to fill, that you can't fill because you don't have complete accessible customer data, if you have all those problems that we talked about in that earlier slide, you need a CDP. Okay, so now you're really, I really do need a CDP. Well, good, I'm glad the CDP Institute is proud of me. They'll pay my salary this month. But, oh man, another but which one should I buy? There's like 150 CDPs out there, literally 151 last count. Which one should I buy? And the answer, thanks a lot, is the one that fits your needs. Well, okay, thanks a lot, David, right? I'll just send you my bill right now. But okay, how do I know which one fits my needs? Well, there's really two things you want to look at. The first need is find a CDP that has the right scope. So remember our little diagram of all these different functions and where the CDP fits and where those other kinds of systems fit? Well, it turns out that some CDPs just do the data bit. That's all they do. They assemble that data, they build those profiles. Some CDPs do the data plus the analytics. We cleverly call those analytics CDPs. We didn't spend a lot of money on this naming. Some do the CDP, the data assembly, plus the analytics, plus the campaign management bits. Those are campaign CDPs. You can see the pattern here. Some do all of that plus delivery CDPs, and some actually have an operational capabilities. There's CDP inside of an e-commerce platform, for example, or ticketing system or whatever it is, whatever's running your company operations. And when you get down to those two lower levels, the delivery CDP, the operations CDP, the CDP is just one component among many. So we think about those as a CDP inside of a larger system. But whichever one of those you need, if you already have great analytics tools and great campaign tools and great delivery tools, you really just need those data functions in your CDP. But if you don't have, say, great analytics tools, it's really nice to get a CDP that has that included as well. Similarly, even if your campaign tools aren't so hot and you're happy to get rid of those because you want to save the work of integrating, then you get a campaign CDP that buys you all three. So whichever scope you need, which again is where your gaps are, what are you missing? That's the kind of CDP that you want to look for. And we in the CDP Institute at www.cdpinstitute.org publish lists of these things, and we classify the CDPs and so on. So we try to help make things a little easier for you. Second question is, you need a CDP that supports business to business, because that's what you're doing. That's what we're about here, is account-based engagement, B2B. And CDP for B2B has special requirements. It's got to deal with account and contact data levels. Okay, and any CDP kind of by definition can handle any data structure. So any CDP could actually ingest account data and contact data and set it up. But you really want one that kind of has that baked in. So it's set up with the analytics and the different kinds of processing and so on, so it knows that's going to be there and is built around it. Similarly, a B2B CDP should be able to do that lead to account match. It's part of the data unification. A B2B CDP should be able to collect third-party data. A lot of the B2B CDP vendors, which is very different, incidentally, from B2C CDP vendors, the B2B guys almost all have their own data collection capability. They go out and they find intent data, or they provide you with contact information and prospect information, and they'll enrich your files. They'll even send you net new names. That's not a normal CDP function, but it's very common in the B2B CDP world. They're also going to be able to integrate other third-party data sources, not the ones that they create, but the ones that you buy from somebody else. Again, any CDP can do that, but doing it properly with B2B data has some special little tricks to it that you really want to have a system that's kind of set up to do that and already has the connectors built into the more common sources. And similarly, they're going to have connectors to CRM systems and marketing automation systems, whatever are the common ones. And you know who they are, and you know which ones you're using. And of course, you don't really care about any ones except the ones you are using and maybe the ones you might buy soon. But you want those connectors to be built in because there's going to be much richer than the custom connector that you might build for yourself. That again, any CDP can connect to anything, but the more is pre-built into the connector, the easier it is and probably the richer that connection. And finally, if you're going to be doing analytics in your CDP, which a lot of you will, then you need the specialized analytics, the ideal customer profile, lead scoring, coverage measurement, engagement measurement, all the different kinds of things that you need for a good ABE program. Again, if you don't have some other place to do that, because maybe you have an ABE system that does all that stuff and just needs the data to be assembled. But if you don't, good to see that in that B2B CDP. So you may ask, okay, that's very nice. Who are the vendors that I actually would want to think about? Fair enough. So there are some specialists. These are guys who really just do B2B, primarily done in Bradstreet, of course, which bought a company called Lattice Engines a couple of years ago. And now I think it's named the B2B CDP. They hired the people who named our CDPs, I think. LeadSpace, OpenPrice, Xylotech, a company called Caliber Mind. Demand-based doesn't call itself a CDP. 6sense don't call themselves CDPs, but if you look at what they do, they pretty much do what a CDP does. ZoomInfo, maybe, maybe not, but I list them here. It's worth a look to see if they'd have what you need. And then there are the general purpose CDPs. And I've listed ones here that specifically have a substantial base of B2B users, First Hive, Segment, Analytics, and then of course all the Adobes and Salesforces and Oracles and Microsofts. Those are the guys who probably, even though they're not specialists, they have a lot of B2B clients and they've done the work that you need to do most likely to meet your needs. Again, it always comes back to your needs. So, summary, account-based engagement needs unified customer and prospect data. It solves all those problems we talk about. Your standard systems are not going to do this. The CDP does this. It's what it's designed for. It fills that gap. And finally, the right CDP for you has the scope and features that meet your needs. Thank you.